Hello and welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at the Kunya-Barrow scenario, Somalia, which is based in Lower Shabelle, sort of to the south west of Mogadishu, sort of halfway between Mogadishu and the Kenyan border. Essentially, it's a joint operation between the very distinctively coloured USA, the United States Special Forces, who are given support with two Apache or two helicopters, and the rather distinctive blue of the Somali units, in this case a Somali Special Force. It's a sort of special local dialect where they move the letters around. It's traditional Somalian for Special Forces. I adjusted him, he was 5. I played this before, so we're going to play this. So essentially they're going in there. This is an Al Shabab location where they are said to have some detainees. The officials say Somali commandos accompanied by US forces in 2 helicopters raided 2 locations early Thursday. So we've got a location here, which we know is sort of Kunya-Barrow, and another location doesn't mention, so we're saying there. I've only put 1 unit because I don't see any reason why there should be lots of militants. I mean, there's only a handful anyway, not necessarily a whole company of regulars. It sort of indicates that it was air support, but others sort of indicate there was sort of US special operations on the ground. I don't know. I don't think it really matters that much, but they're still working together on this matter. So essentially, we're just going to see if we can pepper them up first with some preliminary damage. So 0.9. They'll probably recover from that if they don't move. So it's the Al Shabab option to move now, and they are probably going to stay there. Now, if they move, they would maintain their depression level, but they're going to stay there, so they will recover when their turn. Yeah, so they're now number 0. But we've now got another round of air power, which scores nothing at all, but that doesn't really matter because we now put in our special forces. We're going to insert them there, and they got in fine. No news is good news, so they say, and they don't have any movement on that turn. So it's now the Al Shabab turn. They're not going to do anything. They've completely recovered now, and now they've dug in, so they're ready. But we're going to pepper them up with our air power. Another 0.9 damage, which is useful. Now this is a special forces unit, so these are like, I don't know, they're two sort of kindred spirits in a sense, because if this unit decides to attack this unit, they will go up to 5. So they could have attacked on a 1-to-1, which I didn't really think about. You know, they could have done that. They have elected to defend in their entrenched positions. But this special forces unit, when he attacks, his multiplier is 3 of his strength, so he will be attacking on a strength of 9. So they're quite special when fighting small units. Because he's a small unit, if he was worth 5 or 6, I wouldn't get that bonus as special forces. So as you can see, their attack went in at 9. If they were dug in, they had a 1.5. But we actually got a DE. Now on a DE, the irregulars have a 90% chance of surviving. But they have a 10% chance of actually being eliminated. So obviously he wasn't eliminated, but he's retreated and he's gained 2 depressions on that. So he's now 2.9. So it's 0.9 from the air attack and 2 from the being retreated. So, you know, knocking them out is not that difficult. And again, a lot of these sort of operations, you don't expect these people to go in there with sort of equal odds. You know, obviously they feel confident that they can do what they want with the ground forces and the air power. But we've still got quite a bit of movement, so we're going to move in there again and follow that attack up. So again, we're going to be on 9, but now they're going to be on a lot less. They're going to be on sort of like 0.7, 0.8. So that's 7 to 1. So they've actually retreated. They've been DE result again, but they survived again. It's another 10% roll they survived on. But they're now on 4.9. Now we're going to stay in there. We've got a little bit of movement, but not really enough. Well, we could move along that track and do it again, but we're going to actually complete our mission, and that's to destroy the objectives or free the detainees in Kunya-Barrow. I don't know why the Al-Shabaab people wouldn't shoot all the detainees as they were losing, but we're assuming that they didn't. Either way, we're going to secure this objective by going ahead. So that has now been destroyed, so we're now free to move. The Al-Shabaab unit is going to essentially take up position in this village, although it doesn't really serve any purpose because it's not a village, it's more like just a hamlet. And so we're moving on to the next turn. So we've got some air power coming in here. So they caused 1.1, which has put them up to 6. So they would have had a 10% chance of routing, because there are 1 depression of 6. Anything over 5 gives a percentage times 10 of routing. So 1 over 5, 6 over 5, 6 is 1 more than 5. So that's 1 over 5 times 10, which is 10. I don't know if you get it. So if it's 7, it'll be a 20%, etc. So they survived the morale check, but from a game perspective, next turn I will be running away with them anyway. From when I introduced sort of my concept of role play into the game. But anyway, we're going to move the special forces out along this road, and presumably we should get good odds at DE. Yep, that forced them over there, but didn't rout. We've still got 2.2 movement, so we'll move into this village and do another attack. We had 7 to 1, but we rolled pretty badly, and so that's just a DR. But they're now on 9 depression, which is pretty stupendous. But we're going to stay there now. Destroy that objective. It's the Al-Shabaab turn, and basically they are going to run away. And that's the end of the scenario. So again, it's not really a competitive game. I quite like these little ones, and I quite like the sort of, just the opportunity to sort of, look and analyse and provide a little narration over, current events and things that are happening. I mean, some of the key things to pick up on here are that we've got the US forces operational in Somalia at this moment. And one thing that I did found quite interesting about the about all of this, and I'll see if I can get it because I've got a few minutes on the recording left. It's basically a statement from President Trump, and describes the Al-Shabaab as Africa's deadliest Islamic extremist group. Somali commandos, accompanied by US forces in 2 helicopters, raided 2 locations. They included a detention centre run by Al-Shabaab in Kunya-Barrow, which is what we've just done, and an unknown number of detainees and it says an unknown number of detainees were freed, so it's obviously not good grammar, but I'm not going to complain. So troops engaged a small number of extremists. So US Africa Command spokesman said US forces conducted an advise and assist mission against Al-Shabaab with members of Somali National Army in Kunya-Barrow. They didn't say anything else. The Al-Shabaab said via its radio arm that its fighters foiled an attempted raid by US and African forces. so they denied it. It talks about a previous airstrike the month before, but it says President Donald Trump has approved expanded military operations against al-Shabaab, including more aggressive airstrikes and considering parts of Somalia areas of active hostilities. This is the Business Insider. It's not particularly well written. Yeah, I'm not finding the bit that I want to find, so let me just... It's basically saying Donald Trump has specified Somalia as a battleground, which is sort of, it's a word of war, not a war of words. Let me find it. Trump, Somalia, battleground. I can't find it actually now. I was reading it before. I thought it was in one of these links, but we got an earlier New York Times article that says Trump eases combat rules in Somalia intended to protect civilians. So is basically what he's got are temporary battlegrounds, which allow him to essentially use military force on the ground in Somalia without going through Congress, etc., etc. But frustratingly enough, I can't find the exact article that sort of spelled it out. Anyway, I won't labour too much more on that. So essentially, we've got a scenario where we've got US forces sort of involved in Somalia, and obviously, al-Shabaab, Islamic militants, sort of present, in the Horn of Africa, etc., etc. So lots to be learned, and that's pretty much all there is. The only thing I would say is that, and it's not particularly critical, but this is Lower Shabelle, but the border goes like this. It's a regional border, and I'm thinking of putting regional borders in, but I don't want to put a white border because I usually use those for countries. But over towards this side, there's a completely different area. This is like Texas, and then this is Nevada. I don't know where they have a joint, but it's a different county. But the county line goes down there, or regional line, or province line, or whatever you want to call it. So that's that. So I don't want to sort of labour it too much. Very simple scenario depicting current news story, ongoing actions by US forces on, defined active battlefields, allowing Trump to deploy his units without going through Congress for permission to, put boots on the ground and all that sort of stuff. I don't know much more about it than that, but hopefully that will tweak your interest into finding out what the hell I'm talking about and how this scenario fits into the greater scheme of world events. Okay, I'll speak to you later. Cheers, mate.